Next up is creating dashed lines. So far we've been able to make actual solid lines, but what if you wanted to do a dash line? Would you make a tiny line and then a space and then a tiny line and a space and a tiny line and a space? Or do you think Illustrator has a better way of doing it? They do. All right. Dash lines can apply to a stroke of an object and can be added to a closed path or an open path. So how we build them is we specify how many pixels or how long physically the first dash is, and if that's all you do, it repeats that with an equal space and then that equal size dash over and over and over again. If you want it to have a smaller space, you establish the size of the dash and then the size of the space, and it repeats that. If you want to have a big dash, small space, small dash, big space, you'd make a pattern basically. That's how you get it to work. All right, let's go to our layers panel. We want to show our background layer, so turn that on. And we're going to hide the plant's template layer for now. We're still working. Our still active layer is the artwork layer. That's where we want to stay, but we are showing our background layer now. All right, the area that we're going to be working on is below the swan down here in the lines in the water. So if you want to zoom in a little bit on those. All right, take your selection tool, and we are going to select this path underneath the swan. So it starts on the left with a straight line, and it looks like it finishes with a curve on the right, but that's not part of the line. It's just this part right here. So select that line. Then we're going to hold down Shift, and we're going to select the line at the very bottom also. So hold Shift and select that one. So we've targeted 2 of these lines, not all of them, but the bounding box makes it look like maybe more are selected. All right, with things selected, we can go to our Properties panel and we can see options that we have. We need to click on the word stroke, because right now this is a teal stroke that's 1 point, but any word that has a dotted underline means there's more information there. So click on the word stroke, and that's going to bring up more of a menu about it. So again, we could change our weight. We could change what the end caps look like or the corners. But here's where we see the dash line. So go ahead and check mark that to start it, to tell it is going to be a dash line. And you can see that the default that filled in was 12 points, which automatically replicates the gap as 12 points. All right, we're going to change a few things. First thing we're going to do is we're going to change the weight of our dashes to be 10 points, so they're going to be much more visible. Our first dash line, we're going to choose it to be 150 points, and then hit Tab, and that's going to jump you to the gap. And the first gap we're going to type in is 30 points. Hit Tab also. And then to the right of the check mark for dash line, you see 2 rectangles that have dash lines around them. The first one says preserves exact dash and gap lengths, meaning if you want 150, that's what we'll give you. And if it runs out and only has 20 for the last dash, so be it. The second version says it'll align dashes to corners and path ends, adjusting lengths to fit. So this 150 is actually, it's stretched out a little bit more. So that's the version that we want, is the second version where it aligns to the path ends. Okay, now that we've done that and we can see, we don't want to leave this as big 10-point dashes, but I really wanted you to be able to see how dramatic this is. Switch that back to be 1 point. You can hit the Escape key to get this window to go away, and we can click away to deselect. So now what was a solid line down here has been turned into a dash line, and it's a lot easier to do that than to make a bunch of different lines and make sure they're all parallel or even or straight or whatever. The other thing that we can do to lines or to paths is we can add arrowheads to them. So we can put an arrowhead at either end, both ends, and there's a whole bunch of different arrowhead styles that you can choose from without making them yourself. All right, fit artboard in the window. Let's look at this whole image again. We are going to select this path over here to the left of the swan. And again, arrowheads are something that we find in that stroke menu. So we need to select first the path, then come over to Properties panel and click on the word stroke. And down a little further, we see the arrowheads, and there's a drop-down box for each. In that first arrowhead, we're going to see what they look like. There's a lot of cool things here. We're going to choose arrowhead 13. And you notice where it added it on this particular version. It's down at the bottom. If that's not where you wanted it, trial and error tells you, okay, I want it to be on the other end. So you come to this other piece and you choose arrowhead 13. It's going to put it up higher by the leaf that we added. So we have none for the first end, and we have arrowhead 13 for the right. And then right below it is the scale. So if you want it to be more than 100% scaled, which we are going to change, you just type in here, we're going to do 120% and hit tab, and you're going to see how it grew. Okay, if you stay in this menu and just hit tab, you'll see the change. The other thing that we can do is in the alignment right below here, we have two options. The one that's lit up is place arrow tip at the end of the path. The other one is extend it beyond the path. We want to choose the extend beyond path. That kind of pushes it beyond where the path ends and starts it there. All right, let's do the same thing to these other two. So let's shift selection tool. Let's select this one. Hold down the shift key and select this other one. So we have both of them selected at the same time. Go back into the stroke menu and go down to arrowheads. Do the far right version and choose arrowhead 13. Tell it to be 120% and extended beyond the tip of the path. Because we had both of them selected, it applied to both of them at the same time. And then just click away to deselect. Save your file at this point.